I'd like to begin this meeting. Good afternoon, everybody. If you could all please rise, and I'd like to ask Captain Blake Lee to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance, please.
I pledge allegiance
to the flag
of the United States of America,
no.
and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God,
indivisible, with liberty
and justice for all.
I guess we could, and to lead us in prayer this afternoon for the invocation.
Pastor John Anderson.
Thank you, Pastor Anderson. Welcome.
Thank you very much. I'm honored to be here, and God bless you all. Let us pray together. Our great God and Heavenly Father, we are gathered to do the work that you have placed before us. It is a weighty thing to do, to make judgments and provide direction for the people of our community. We ask for your wisdom and guidance. God, you are omniscient and nothing escapes your notice. You cannot be caught unaware. So we pray for your wisdom, strength, protection, and peace. Thank you for the work of the state of Florida, Lee County, and our great city of Bonita Springs. Would you visit us with health, peace, and courage as we forge ahead into uncharted territory? Particularly, God, we ask that you would be with our nation's military and our first responders, that you would bring them blessing and honor and safety and success in their missions. We humbly and persistently seek you and your promises. We make our prayer in the name of Christ. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Pastor Anderson. Thank you. God bless.
Thank you, and you too.
Stay safe. Thank you, Pastor. Okay, could we do roll call now, please?
Councilwoman Carumba.
Here.
Councilman Purdon.
Here.
Councilwoman Carr.
Here.
Mayor Simmons.
Here.
Councilman Corey.
Here.
Councilman Gibson. Councilman Forbes.
Here.
Okay, well, good afternoon, everybody. Pursuant to Executive Order number 20-69 issued by the Office of Governor Ron DeSantis on March 20th, 2020, municipalities may conduct meetings of their governing boards without having a quorum of its members present physically or at any specific location, and utilizing communications media technology such as telephonic or video conferencing as provided by Section 120-54, Section 5B2, Florida statutes. The members appearing remotely for this meeting are Mayor Peter Simmons, Deputy Mayor Mike Gibson, Councilman Jesse Purdon, Councilman Chris Corey, Councilwoman Laura Carr, Councilwoman Amy Carumba, and Councilman Fred Forbes. Arlene, do you have some information at this point?
Yes, in our efforts to take all precaution and proactively protect the public health and safety of our community, we are holding this as a virtual meeting in the best interest of our community. The City of Bonita Springs is using the technology of Zoom to hold this April 29th, 2020 virtual City Council workshop. Additionally, the city has not selected a platform that requires the public to purchase or download any additional software or equipment to watch the meeting, aside from the Zoom platform, and that the participants will be appearing remotely. The public will not experience a difference in their ability to watch this meeting. I will now ask Communications Director Laura Taylor to express our process.
Thank you, Arlene.
In order to ensure that the public has the ability to view the meeting, the city's communication department will broadcast the meeting through all the usual channels.
Yeah, you've got
Laura, I'm sorry, you got feedback, sorry. I'll continue. To be clear, that in order to provide as much pertinent information to the public, they will be able to experience watching this meeting on through our Bonita Springs website, Bonita TV, Comcast Channel 98, Summit Broadband Cable Channel 96, Hotwire Channel 398, CenturyLink Prism Channel 87, and we will rebroadcast this workshop on our cable network and our city website as well. The city has asked the public to send public comments via the email address of citymeetings@cityofbonitasprings.org. We did receive 3 public comments, which have been forwarded to City Council and executive staff. The public, as well as forward to the rest of the staff to record. We will also be posting these comments adjacent to the agenda. At this point, I'd like Derek Rooney to go over the legal aspects of the meeting.
Great, thank you.
The shorthand is, it's all good. No,
Is that the shorthand, Rooney?
that's the shorthand. but
Give us
the-
a slightly longer version.
The slightly longer version is through this Zoom process and the procedures we have laid out for public comment to submit their written comments ahead of time, as well as the publishing of the agenda for this virtual city council workshop. We meet all the requirements of chapter 286 and 120 with respect to public meetings.
Great.
That's it.
So Mayor, at this time, we'd ask for a motion to accept the format that we've laid out.
So moved. Is there
I'll
a
second.
Second.
Okay. There's a motion to approve as laid out this format in a second. Council, is there further discussion? Roll call, please.
Councilwoman Carumba,
Aye.
Councilman Purdon,
Aye.
Councilwoman Carr,
Aye.
Mayor Simmons,
Aye.
Councilman Corey,
Aye.
Councilman Forbes. Councilman Forbes, Councilman Forbes,
Raise your hand if you agree, Fred.
Fred, you might be on mute.
Uh-oh.
Debbie, he answered in the affirmative. We can move forward.
Okay. Fantastic. Derek, do you have anything else, or Arlene?
No, so we're ready to move on to the next item.
Okay, can you introduce the next item, Arlene, please?
Yes. With us today, we have representatives of our public safety, so they could provide an update on our community's response to COVID-19. First, we'll be receiving an update from the Lee County Sheriff's Office, and Captain Blakely is here to join us and give us an update, especially as we experience our first day of our open parks within the city and the openings of the Lee County facilities within our city limits.
Great, thank you very much. And thanks for being with us.
Thank you, sir. Well, good afternoon, Mayor, City Council, City Manager, and staff. Thank you very much for the opportunity to share a brief update with all of you. The Lee County Sheriff's Office is fully functional and adjusting to operations in line with CDC guidelines and the Department of Health. And we continue to enforce the governor's executive orders as they're amended, and will continue to do so as our community recovers. Overall, the community has actually demonstrated an amazing responsibility and adherence to the governor's directives, and they've shown great cooperation and compliance with the closures and recommendations of the city of Bonita Springs. And I must say that actually our community's resolve in adapting to the new normal has truly been phenomenal. We continue our proactive patrols actually on land, on water, and in the air throughout the city of Bonita Springs, and these efforts have been actually very successful in the deterrence of crime. We've implemented practices that have equipped all our agency's personnel with the necessary training and equipment needed to establish good community-based behaviors and procedures that should help reduce the possibility of introduction or spread of the COVID-19 within our agency and throughout the ranks. Our staff has been also briefed on COVID-19 issues and are taking all due precautions when interacting with the public to mitigate any unnecessary exposure and keep everyone involved as safe as possible. Additionally, while our substation lobby remains open for limited services, we encourage residents to call ahead to determine if we can serve their needs without requiring a visit. For the past few weeks, as most of you have seen, we've utilized our message boards throughout the city of Bonita Springs to promote public health messages and have received a lot of positive feedback. Furthermore, we continue to work closely with the city manager and her staff, with Chief Dewitt and his men and women of the Bonita Springs Fire and Rescue District, and all other first responders. As a result of the reopening of the beaches, parks, and other public facilities, which took effect today, we've added additional manpower to patrol the beaches, waterways, and the parks of the city. Even though there's been a significant turnout of people to our beaches and our parks, everyone has been cognizant of the social distancing guidelines and doing their part as we move forward. So as always, the Sheriff's Office will continue to be out in force with the goal of encouraging a safe and healthy environment. And it is the goal of the Lee County Sheriff's Office to continue to provide the highest level of safety and service while preserving the health of both our personnel and our community. And that's just sort of a brief update as what we've accomplished so far. I know it's been several weeks. It seems a lot longer, I'm sure, for most of us. But overall, I mean, the interaction, the response from our community has been phenomenal. So with that, I open it to any questions.
Great. Thank you very much, Captain Lee. And I would just have one. And we did some back and forth with staff yesterday, and I understand the differences and realities of the public beach in Bonita Springs being Lee County. And of course, Lover's Key is the state park. In the least bureaucratic terms, and I lay that on Derek Rooney and myself, can you, for those that don't necessarily understand or care about the difference between a state park and a public beach, what will that look like in reality, Captain Lee, from your end of things?
As in what? I'm sorry, as far as our
In terms of the beaches and the beach parks, the Joe Q citizen's not so worried if it's a county beach or a state beach if they're trying to get to the beach.
Understood. Of course, the beaches in Bonita Springs and those specifically on Hickory Island, you have much easier access to them as a result of the numerous beach accesses that we have. I can tell you that this morning our deputies were out in full force. By 10 a.m. in the morning, all the beach accesses were actually full. So we've been out there. We've got a boat out on the water as well. And there are people that are, congregating, but everybody has been in line with, what the guidelines are, to be, and everybody's actually been very compliant. There is still plenty of real estate out on the beach. So far I know that people are trying to get out there and, get a little bit of fresh air.
Sure.
But that's, so far we've, like I said, been very, very successful, and the community has been amazing.
No, that's great, very much. And City Attorney Rooney, any bureaucrat speak you want to add to the difference between county beaches and state beaches for our residents?
Oh, I could have a lot of fun with that, but the answer is we're talking about the control points, how they get
Understood.
access to the beach. Below
Sure.
the water line is public for everyone. But if you're going to Lover's Key and you're trying to park and enter through the park, then you're going through a state park facility, which has not been opened up yet. And if you're going to one of the beach access points the city controls, then you would be going through our access points. But the main beach on Hickory that everyone thinks about is really county park. So
Right.
those parking facilities, that access is controlled through the county.
Thank you for that. And because I can't see most of you, I can see Chris Corey, but I'll just go. District 1, Amy Carumba. Amy, do you have anything for Captain Lee?
I'm sorry, I thought I was on mute. I just want to thank you for the effort that the Lee County Sheriff's Office has done to keep us safe during this period of, I think, stress for everybody. And I know that we're going to probably be asking more of you when we move to the reopening, when not only are we going to be doing our beaches, but we're going to have to be somehow monitoring our business, but that's to be determined in the future. So thank you for the effort, and stay safe, and we'll try to continue to be good citizens.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. Likewise.
Great. Thank you, Amy. District 2, Jesse Purdon.
I appreciate the work. You guys are doing an awesome job. I hope you like my flag back here.
Looks great. Thank you.
Dynamite. Thank you, Jesse. District 3, Councilwoman Laura Carr.
I'm curious, have you noticed any changes in the patterns of crimes? Like, is there a surprise something went up and something went down, or?
Actually, crime in general, there's been a slight decrease. Of course, that doesn't mean that we've had actually more time, because we have dedicated a significant amount of our time to, safeguard people's businesses, safeguard people's homes. We want to make sure that, when people do come back to their businesses, that they're going to find their business just the way it was that they left it several weeks ago. So we're dealing with that. Of course, when you put groups of people together for extended hours, that does sometimes create a little bit of friction, and we tend to those matters. But overall, things have been very good.
Great, good to hear. Thank you so much for what you and your team do. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you. District 4, Councilman Chris Corey. Chris?
Yes, thank you for your service, Captain Lee. Just wondered, I always count you guys as part of the first responders. What's the COVID-19 statistics within the department look like? Have you got officers out on quarantine or in the hospital? How's it affect you from a health standpoint?
Well, once again, we've actually been working very closely, following CDC guidelines. We've been working closely with our brothers and sisters at the fire services, EMS as well. And since day one, we've actually been, as an agency, adhering to strict usage of our, PPEs, which is our personal protection equipment. And we have had some instances to where we've had potential exposures. We have protocols that we've actually followed, and we have had deputies that have actually been tested. But for South District, everything actually, thank God, has come back negative. And our troops have been doing a very good job at, keeping themselves healthy and taking the necessary precautions to continue to function.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Chris. And I don't think Mike is with us unless he's joined. So we'll, if he is, we'll come back to him. But District 6, Fred Forbes.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Good. Yeah, I'm really pleased that the beaches got reopened, and I was at the meeting, and actually the county gave more latitude on what people could do at the beaches and other beaches. And you can sit down, lay down, do a lot of good things. And I really appreciate the fine work that the Sheriff's Department is doing, and Blakely, and I salute you.
Well, thank you. On behalf of Sheriff Marcino and the Lee County Sheriff's Office, we thank you all very much for your support as well.
Thank you, Captain Lee. And I'll just add, it was good seeing you and Sheriff Marcino, County Commissioner Ray Sandelli, and Terry Lemaine last week at the Bonita Assistance Office for some food and much needed supplies. And I did receive a call today, Captain Lee. When the details get worked out, we may be needing you again, you and your team again, for some residents of Bonita Springs, but I'll let you know as that sets up with the Bonita Assistance Office.
Absolutely. We stand ready to serve. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you very much, and God bless.
God bless.
Mayor, council member Gibson is on, but not able to jump on this moment, so he said he move forward.
Okay, that's great. And you might want to zoom back in, Arlene. I think you have the fuzzy voice. That's okay. Okay, so we're now going to move on. We have Chief Greg Dewitt amongst our ranks, former city councilman from District 2. How's it going, Chief?
It's going. It's going pretty good out here. Everything's going pretty well. I got some statistics to lay out for you if you guys are ready for it.
Absolutely. Lay it on us, buddy.
So yeah, right now, at last look, Lee County itself had about 1,000 total cases here of COVID-19. Of that, in Bonita Springs, it's not that high. It's in the 50s right now, just peaking over 50. So, which is a good thing. We have noticed our call volume as a whole dropping. Statistically, for this last 3-week period, we've run about over the last 3 or 4 years, about an average of 453 calls. Right now, we're down to 437. And we'd like to attribute some of that to, with the media and with these workshops and town hall meetings, we're talking to the worried well. Hey, if you're not really sick, if you just think you're sick, if you're this, you're that, we're giving them the peace of mind so they're not overloading the healthcare system. And as a whole right now, the healthcare system with Lee Memorial Hospital is doing a phenomenal job. I'm looking at the statistics right now. Out of the 1.6 or 16 to 1,800 emergency beds they have, they're at like 1,000. So they are not even at 3/4 right now, which is a good thing. Ventilator use, which they've really talked about a lot on the national news, New York City and so on, they're at 13%. So with the reopening of the beaches and the reopening of some of the parks and areas, I think that if we do have a slight uptick, the healthcare system can handle it right now. So that remains to be seen. Over the last 3 weeks, getting ready for this, the week of April 8th through the 15th, we at the fire department ran about 39 pandemic calls. The week of the 15th through the 22nd, it dropped down to 32. And then this week, currently, as of the 22nd to the day, it's down to about 28. So we are seeing a decline in the actual responses that we run to of actual, they've checked the check boxes of, hey, I've got shortness of breath. Hey, I've got a fever. I've got this. I've got the signs and symptoms of Corona-19. So we have seen a decrease every week, so which is a good thing. I think we've plateaued and we're starting to see a downward side of it. We're not out of the woods, but at least the light at the end of the tunnel is looking a little bit brighter. With the work of Captain Lee and his team, hopefully we can maintain this social distancing and we don't have an uptick. So that's one of the things that we'll be talking with our partners at Lee County Sheriff's Office and Lee County EMS at this time. Totally right now, PPE wise, we are doing very good. Our PPE supplies are starting to come in. The chain of supplies is coming in, so which is a positive thing. We still have our partners at Lee County that if we run critically low, we can go to the county, but the county's always tasked us with, let's go to your own suppliers first before you look at the county. So we are doing good with that. We are assisting Lee County Sheriff's Office daily with our boat out there. Just a presence. I think that the community, if they see us out and about, either on the water or in the public, they're cognizant of what we want. Social distancing, no great gatherings, nobody more than 10. So I think that's helping. Our boat was out for a couple hours a day and we continue to do that every day. Again, our lobby remains limited access. As of right now, we are 50%. We're doing what the governor's asked with limiting our personnel here. I'm hoping to have that back in the next week or two. But again, we're going to follow the guidelines of Governor DeSantis and see how it goes. For us, kind of going to what Commissioner Corey asked, we had about 7 people out at any given time with being tested for COVID. As Captain Lee said, for us, we've had nobody positive. So right now we're at full force. Everybody's good. We have our standards in place that, every patient, like I said at the last one, every patient that we see gets a mask for their protection and ours. So everything is right now is going as well as to be expected. So, which is a good thing.
Great.
So
Oh, no, I'm sorry, Chief. I was just going to say, do you have time for a few questions?
I've got time. I was going to say, I'll open it up to any questions or comments or anything like that right now.
Wonderful. Thanks. District 6, Fred Forbes. Hit the unmute button, Fred.
He's unmuted now.
Okay.
Oh, he just
he
muted himself again.
You're muted, Fred. All right, technical difficulties in 6. We're going to move on to District 4. Chris Corey.
Thank you for your service, Greg, and thank you to all your personnel. And we appreciate the great work you do, and hope you can carry on in a safe way and nobody gets the virus. So, but again, thanks for all that you do for Bonita Springs.
Great, thank you, Chris. District 3, Councilwoman Laura Carr.
Hi again, Greg. Oh, Chief, sorry. No, you answered all my questions. You guys always are doing a great job. One of my neighbors had to call you. It was just a simple fall. but she couldn't get her husband up. So you guys came over and they got masks, and she said that everybody was really calm, and her husband wasn't panicking because everybody was so calm. So she was grateful. And I suspect most people are with you guys. So I know I'm grateful that you and your department have our backs. So thanks.
Very welcome.
Thank you very much. District 2, Jesse Purdon.
You're doing a great job, Chief. Appreciate it. And, if we can be of any assistance in any way, obviously let us know.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Jesse. Amy Carumba, District 1.
I'll add my thanks to your service, and it's very nice to have you here today, even in this circumstances, instead of being sitting at our table with us, but as the chief. But we're very lucky to have you there. I think your report about the declining calls is a good one, and if we could just continue to have that, because I think it's an important early indicator for what we're facing here in regard to possible spread of the virus. And as we continue to see that going down, I think it's reinforcing and comforting to our people. So thank you for that report. I had not heard that before.
Yeah, you're very welcome. I mean, that's some statistics that I put together over the last couple of days when I found out about it. And I figured it would be at least a indicator of what's happening in Bonita Springs itself. And so we get those calls every day, and Lee County Dispatch prioritizes them. So I just did a quick query, and I thought it'd be important at least to give the public some knowledge of, hey, we are declining. What we're doing is working. At least it's showing that their discomfort, their sacrifice that they're making by staying at home and safe at home is having an impact on the citizens of Bonita Springs.
Wonderful. Thank you. Thank you, Amy. District 6, Fred Forbes.
See if it works this time.
There you go, Fred.
Yeah,
Yes.
Yeah, it just worked, went on its own. No, I want to compliment Greg on his fine early months as a chief, and fire district is performing as they're supposed to. Very good.
Dynamite. Thank you. And District 5, Mike Gibson for comment. I think Mike's in a listen only mode. So Chief, I'll just say, thank you very much. I mean, certainly and I want to thank you for participating in our Bonita Springs virtual town hall meeting with Dr. Larry Antonucci and Senator Pasadomo and Commissioner Ray Sandelli. That was very informative. We're going to continue to stay vigilant, but I just want to thank you. Timing, right? I mean, timing. There were some, for good reason, some citizens that were looking for some more answers, and certainly through that town hall format Zoom meeting, we really got some folks a lot of answers with some great information, and I want to thank you for participating in that. It was very, very valuable for Bonita Springs.
You're very welcome, and like anything else, anytime I can help, I have no problem clearing a couple hours of my schedule to do that. I mean, that's what it's all about, is education and educating the public, because education is the key. And if they see progress of the education, I think that's the biggest thing out there right now. If they're seeing the fruits of their labor with the declining numbers, I think that's going to help them out.
Right. No, absolutely. And I'll just, anybody on council have anything else for Chief Dewitt or Captain Lee?
No.
Thank you, gentlemen. Thank you very much for being with us, and you're more than welcome to stay with us. We're going to move on now to a discussion with community development to address business needs in response to COVID-19.
Good afternoon, Mr. Mayor and Council. How are you?
Hey, John Dolmer.
Hello. When we are looking at restaurants and businesses, really what we're starting to look at are things like signage, the location of these facilities, if somebody's wanting to do something temporary or permanent, not only where is it on the site, but where is it in relation to other parking areas, other areas that are used for other uses, ADA accessibility, and if we're looking at consumption on premises, how we would handle alcohol sales for new areas. So really to get into what we're talking about, there isn't going to be very much that we're going to do that's going to cut out additional reviewers or additional permits. The state is still going to be looking at inspections. I can't see if the chief is still on, but I know that the chief is going to want to look at tents that anybody wants to use outside that are over 10 square feet. And the Department of Health and the Department of Business and Professional Regulation are still going to be involved in how they inspect some of these new locations or temporary locations. So that deals with the restaurant portion of it, but I wasn't sure if we were going to limit the discussion on those type of uses or if you wanted to expand that into other areas.
And
Council, what's your
Mr. Mayor,
pleasure?
Mr.
Yeah.
Mayor.
Well, if we're talking about restaurants, was there any exploration of providing for outdoor dining in areas that weren't already geared for doing that? I mean, is there any discussion there?
Yes.
There is a discussion, but what you would need to do is have a plan on where that new area was going to be set up, how it was going to be laid out with the tables, if there was going to be any tents involved, and once those areas are permitted locally, they would also need to be inspected by the state health or the state DVPR and local health department. So you still have 2 inspections there, and possibly if there's alcohol sales, alcohol, beverage, and tobacco.
So we're talking about doing something more permanent or more temporary. Would we have to do that if it was like a temporary thing? Let's say we want to open up over a month or something. Could we allow them to do that for a month? They still have to go through all those inspections?
The state does
Council,
not make it.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
this is Derek Green. What we would probably be, we don't have a process to do like a month-long exemption that basically bypasses state and the fire and anything else. But what we'd probably be looking at, given that there's probably going to be some market condition changes as well, people will probably, even if COVID abates, there's going to be a number of people who are not going to feel comfortable going to restaurants. And so we expect fully that the restaurants and businesses are going to want to have a longer assurance than a very short-term situation. So we'd probably be looking at a couple month-long relief package that we'd have to adopt that would allow these things to go on in sunset at some period of time unless extended. That way, it wouldn't be something we do right away because, quite frankly, it's not going to go into effect very quickly. We'd want to adopt something that's broad and lasts a few months so that it works well with those other permitting agencies as well.
No, that's great. And I just want to real quick, Jesse, and I apologize. I'm going to jump in here. I just got a text from Chief Dewitt. He is still on the line. Can we address the tents? And then Jesse, you're on deck.
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, when I spoke before about our staff being at 50%, our inspectors are still out there doing inspections and they can do any type of inspection. We've even ramped up because of city council's wishes with the food trucks that they now have to be inspected on a basis. So we have bought the necessary tools to inspect those food trucks along with the propane and the propane fryers and all that stuff. So anything they need, we stand ready to assist at any time for the inspectors. All we need to do is get a time and a place and they'll be out there.
Great.
Okay, great. Anything on that point before I call on Jesse Purdon in District 2?
I'll just add on to that and say that they're already looking at those tents and those tend to be turned around very fast. That doesn't tend to be an obstacle.
Okay, great. Thank you, Chief. Thanks, John. Councilman Jesse Purdon, District 2. Jesse, you might be on mute.
I was actually going to talk about tents as well. And I just wanted to express that, if people weren't thinking about it, July, rainy season. So between the heat and July, I just think that the tents is part of it. And I was wondering, Derek, if it might be appropriate just to tie in the timetable to when the social distancing and everything else is lifted. Instead of doing an arbitrary month or 2 months or 3 months, why not tie it to normality?
I think that's a possibility. The two issues I think we're going to be dealing with from a coordinating effort is the general lockdown order expires tomorrow. So in about 20 minutes or so, we expect the governor to announce what those revisions are going to be. And hopefully there'll be a staged approval process that may even have local controls. So we'll probably have to tie our extensions to local on the ground matters. And it may be a situation that, quite frankly, I expect, given what happened during the last downturn, that this will be an issue that will probably extend until next season. That there's going to be concern that people coming down or won't come down, won't go to businesses unless they feel an extra level of security. So we may want to be looking at extending those beyond what the state deadlines our benchmarks end up being, because it may be demanded by the local business community.
Thank you, Derek.
That works for me.
Yeah, thank you, Jesse. And I'll just, I guess, kind of go around the horn. Laura in District 3, Laura Carr.
Okay, I guess I see this as we're putting the cart before the horse. Let's wait and see what the business owners want. And then we can work with them. As we know, we do have a great community, and our business owners are innovative and dedicated to the community. So we know they're going to do whatever they need to do to build the confidence and have them back in. So I'm for what you guys are saying. Tents, if they need tents, we'll work with them as they give us their issues. I guess I don't see us solving something that hasn't been presented. What's the structure of something that's undefined? So, okay, we'll wait for the governor, and then I guess at next council, which is the meeting, we'll be more concrete with our moving forward and helping our community come back to its vibrant self.
Mr. Mayor.
Yes, Jesse.
I mean, one of the reasons that I brought this up with, and I think there's at least one other council person who did too, with Arlene and with Derek, is because I think it's very important that we have, assuming we get the autonomy to make a decision, we have a turnkey situation prepared. I mean, I reached out to Tiffany Esposito, who's the president of the chamber. She gave us numerous recommendations, which I passed on to staff. If you read the public comment, we have 3 business owners who've given us recommendations. I'm not saying these are the ones we adopt, but the reason that I wanted to bring it up now in this format is so we hypothetically have something that we can potentially be actionable on come city council day.
Right. Yeah. Yes, Chris. I see your hand there. Yes, Chris Corey, District 4.
Thank you. I'd just like to get some idea before the council meeting how long it would take to get all the approvals necessary to put dining outdoors. If say Old 41 restaurant wanted to go outdoors onto the parking lot and onto the sidewalk, are they looking at a process that's going to take 2 weeks, or is it going to take a month or 6 weeks? How do they do their planning? So that's what I would be looking for at council, to get some idea as to what we can tell them is how long it would take to do something like that.
That's a great point, Chris. John, you want to chime in?
At this point, they tend to be turning things around at the same pace they were, from what I've gathered. What I think that you're going to see a delay or possible delay is anybody that wants to amend their alcohol sales or consumption on premises to go into a different area that they're not currently permitted. One, you wouldn't be able to bypass the city hearing approvals if they needed a special exception. And then 2, I am still waiting to hear back from the state on what they would do or how they would handle this temporary modification as compared to a permanent request. They do have a temporary request, but it tends to be more for special events. And I wanted to see which way that they would fall on this item. In terms of days or times, I can get better information for you. But in terms of just moving food sales, it doesn't tend to increase the time that dramatically. Alcohol could be a factor though.
Okay.
All right. And then, go ahead, Chris. Do you have a follow-up? I'm sorry.
I just would, if you could try to get a little more color on the amount of time, just so that they have some idea. That'd be great. Thanks, John.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, and I'll just file up on that and use my word of the day, bureaucracy. John, you let me know and let the council know what we need to do to cut through the bureaucracy, because I want to expedite to this extent that the council wants it expedited, to the extent that we can expedite it, to the extent that businesses want to be expedited.
And I don't think that the request is one that's that difficult to implement in terms of just the sale of food outside. I think what you look at is, where is this going to be located? Because most of the places I would imagine or can think of immediately are going to be based in a parking lot. They're not going to be in a grassed area or an area that's away from the drive aisle. So you want to make sure that the patrons there are safe. You don't have something set up where there's going to be a collision between vehicles and diners. Within that site, you want to be able to figure out how the tables are going to be laid out, or seating is going to be designed, mainly because you want to be consistent with whatever regulations the state has in place at that time in terms of distancing or who can be together, what's the largest size of the group. If there's going to be tents involved, obviously we already discussed how the fire district has been turning those permits around and inspections around very quickly. And so they wouldn't be doing anything different with this process they normally do. So once we define how we want to lay this out, we can lay out the process and get something through pretty quick. The only thing that we really can't do is avoid any zoning approvals or permit uses or things that are not currently permitted in the zoning district or for that property. So we can't bypass the process, and we can't, under an emergency order, declare something legal that's currently not legal.
Okay, and I'll drill down a little further, John, and I'm not picking on you, but you're what I got in front of me. What does that mean for the business owner that's trying to survive?
In terms of
well,
what
in terms of you're saying maybe we can't act any quicker as a council by declaring a state of emergency or declaring a moratorium, a non-moratorium, whatever the term is, to help our local businesses and embrace them fully and cut through all the red tape.
The only red tape that you're avoided with comes from your charter. And if you look at the language in there, it simply says that for emergency areas or for declarations of emergency, you cannot create legal uses where they're not currently legally permitted. There's also another list of other things that are not applicable here. But if something requires a hearing or something requires rezoning, or if the use is not permitted in a zoning district, you are not under an emergency order able to make those legal. You would have to go through the same process of amending things under an emergency that you would when there's not an emergency.
Right.
So,
and I was going to say, and then I'll just call on Derek. Derek,
Sure.
Thank you, John, very much. Derek.
Yeah, there's I can add a little more nuance that may open it up a little bit more for you. It's not just the charter; it's there's state law. So we can blame the legislature on this one. You're basically not allowed to enact emergency land use ordinances. So where you can act locally that would give relief to people is, let's say that someone, in order to have outdoor seating, required a special exception. So you would be talking about every single one of those people going before the zoning board and coming before the city council, and that's a month and a half long process at best. We could change the zoning ordinance so that, at least for some period of time, that use does not require special exception. That could be done to shorten the process. Now, having gone through a lot of this issue, and I'm sure the city did too, during the 2009 financial meltdown, the issue will be making sure that everyone who comes in with a permit, and we're probably going to end up doing no fee permits and expedited reviews with very little documentation, understands that this process is temporary, and at some point the city council is going to choose to end it. And then if they want to keep the use, then they would go through the special exception process. But that's about the shortest we can cut. What I will tell you is, as a practical matter, we're going to have two elements of this. As soon as we find out what the rules are, hopefully the rules will be laid out, not just the next stage, but the stage beyond that. And we'll be able to start planning for that second stage or third stage now, which means hopefully by the time that opens up, we'll have been able to adopt the ordinances necessary to make this a reality. The second issue is, as we're moving through that process, we're going to have the reverse of what we've always done, which is zoning in progress. And so everyone's going to know that they're going to soon be able to, open their business up, and they'll be able to plan for that. And some of them will probably open up a little earlier than we'd expect, but we're going to be busy processing applications rather than chasing down people and beating them up. So as a practical matter, I think, that's how we're going to speed things up a bit more.
And on that note of speeding things up, and I'm good at pointing out the obvious, this is a workshop, not a city council meeting. But Derek, what can we do should we choose the council today? What can we do today so that when we get together as a council for a regular scheduled meeting a week from today, we haven't lost a week? What can we do in the next 7 days based on to get ready, to anticipate this? What can we do to use this time between the workshop and our next regularly scheduled meeting to our benefit and to our businesses and residents' benefit?
Sure. Well, staff, myself, Arlene, John Dahmer, and his staff, we've been meeting regularly, kind of troubleshooting these ideas, coming up with what we think is going to be allowed based on what's going on in other places. In the kind of discussion we've had both at today's meetings, we've heard from the chamber and other groups as we got comments in. So we're already sort of coming out with outlines. If we get very clear direction today from the governor, we may even be in a position to present things for consideration and a path going forward. So my recommendation would be for the business community, for the council members to get those comments, particularly after they see whatever happens this afternoon, and start to provide their input now so that input can be incorporated before you have your first meeting next month.
And I was just going to, and then I'll go around the horn. I apologize. But Derek, I like that. So if the council is amenable and likes this idea, we can hear the governor's announcement tonight. If we need to have an emergency meeting, an emergency workshop tomorrow, Friday, whatever it is, in the interest of time, I just want to keep things moving. I think we all do, but I don't want to I don't want to be haphazard. Don't mishear me, but I don't want to continue to lose weeks in between our meetings for our residents and our business. Yes,
Mr.
Laura.
Mayor, what if we noticed, I think we still have time, and we move the meeting to Monday? We absorb, we digest, the community gets to us, and we meet Monday, and hopefully we can put the guidelines down and people can get started.
I like that.
Well,
Let me go around the horn. Amy, your thoughts on that? Or
I'm sorry. I was just, I'm on. I was just looking, we have a meeting on the 6th, that's Wednesday. So I don't see any reason to have an emergency meeting 2 days earlier. Excuse me.
Hang on, I'm sorry. Amy, and then we'll go to Laura. I'm sorry.
I just looked on today is the 29th. A week from now, we have our meeting. Isn't that correct? A regularly scheduled meeting? All right. So we have a council meeting. May I just finish my thought? I'm sorry, Laura.
Okay, but my suggestion was to move the meeting, not to have 2 meetings.
Well, my suggestion is we don't need to move the meeting, and please let me finish and give my reasons, all right? Sure. I just think we should try to maintain our standard, whatever our regular schedule is, because it's too confusing for people to then. I don't think we know, I think some point was made, I think by you, Laura, that we don't really know what our businesses want, and it's not just for restaurants. I think I'm looking forward to what the governor says, because there should be a broad-based directive of all kinds of businesses. And I think that I would like to have some outreach, and I've said this before, either from community development or maybe from the chamber, to all our businesses and ask them what their ideas are. What do they need? If it's a regulatory thing, I'm very much in favor of getting rid of all this red tape. If that's the issue that is constraining our businesses from not opening. My understanding from what I've read, that it takes restaurants a couple of weeks to get going anyway, because you don't just say, I'm opening the doors, you have to do all your supplies, you got to get your people. So I think those few days we can do some homework, or ask to have some homework made, so that when we come to our meeting on the 6th, we can have all these discussions about reacting to the governor, and then have some substantive discussions and move forward. And then, 2 days is not going to make a difference, in my view.
Thank you, Amy. Thank you, Amy. Laura, and then I'll go back to Jesse in 2. You're okay for now, Laura? Jesse, I know you had a thought on this in District 2.
Well, I just fundamentally disagree. I think that our business leaders are chomping at the bits to get started, and they've already done their homework. They know what they want, what they need. All they have to do is then fit it into what the governor is telling them they can do. And so for us saying, well, we'll do, I think they have their homework done, but that's my opinion. And, whatever, I'll be there Monday or Wednesday or both.
Thank you, Laura. Jesse Purdon, District 2. Jesse, I think you're on mute.
I just wanted to reiterate that staff has a number of things from the CEO of the Chamber of Commerce in regards to recommendations. So we at least have a starting point. So they have been thinking about it and they did pass it on to us. So it's not like we're in a situation where we're completely flat-footed saying, hey, we have to reach out to the businesses and then we'll think about it and then we'll do a committee and then whatever. We've reached out to them. But honestly, I don't think we need to get our feathers in ruffled because I think in about 8 minutes, life's about to change drastically anyway.
Thank you, Jesse. Chris Corey, District 4.
Yeah, I tend to agree with Amy. Let's go ahead with the regular council meeting on Wednesday. I think we try to do something Monday. It's going to, we're not going to gain much over the 2 days of the weekend. So we're really looking at what can we learn Thursday, Friday. Let's give ourselves a couple of work days next week, and then we'll be ready Wednesday. So I agree with.
Thank you, Chris. Thank you, Chris. Fred Forbes, District 6.
Yeah, I believe that we should at least let Derek begin to work on that thing where he said we would create the ability to have temporary zoning, because that's going to take time. And if he started tomorrow, that would almost save a week, but waiting till next week to tell him, because no matter what we do, we're going to have what Derek outlined. And that could be started now, drafting it up.
Okay, thank you, Fred. And Mike, are you in a mode where you can talk? I think you're in a listen only mode, but Councilman Gibson from District 5. Okay, I'm now going to ask Arlene. Arlene, if we were to consider moving our next meeting from Monday to Wednesday, from your point of view, what does that look like?
We started preparing for the city council meeting this coming week. We probably still would have to publish the agenda on Fridays because that is our normal date.
Arlene,
You're fuzzy. I'm sorry.
In the meantime, while I got you, so what we could start looking at doing is when we're ready to go, and we could adopt zoning in progress resolution, identifying where we're headed with this. In talking with staff earlier today, we were going to maybe on the 6th recommend that we start looking at reopening our land use items by a second meeting in May, so that we don't start getting a backlog. We have a couple of items that are not likely to bring out a significant number of the public, and to start processing some of those. And then in June, we'd probably have the larger the items that are going to bring out more of the public, which will more likely be in compliance with whatever the rules are at that stage. One of the things we would really do need to do, and we'll have to reach out to the Planning and Zoning Board, but the Planning and Zoning Board will be key to scheduling the adoption of the changes. There are another step statutorily we have to go through. Their meeting generally occurs mid-May. So if we're going to be looking at doing this, that would be one of the things I'd look for, head nods and direction from the council to say, let us start talking to them, see if they're comfortable, so we can move their meeting date up and start. That way, maybe you have a chance for a first reading in May for adoption, the first meeting in June for these changes.
All right, and Derek, I'll continue to pick on you for a
frozen.
minute. From
Mr. Mayor, you're cutting out. You need to.
Audio issues.
may make a big for us to make some decisions based on Governor DeSantis meeting today at 5 o'clock. What does that look like in your world?
Mr. Mayor, you broke up, so we couldn't understand what you said.
Mayor, I'm gonna extrapolate what I think you were asking. We're gonna get, when we get the governor's direction, and if it falls in line, anything with what the White House has put out, we'll have a path to be able to put together some recommendations right off the bat. My guess, he's gonna have a couple of changes. He may roll back to the St. Patrick's Day rules on restaurants and bars. That will be an easy one for us to address because that spacing will be something we can incorporate quickly. And the idea will be simply this: we will start putting something together as soon as possible. And given the fact that we're going to have at least 2 public hearings with the council before we adopt, and luckily now we don't have to wait 30 days after adoption for it to go into effect because of the charter amendment change, we'll have time even between those 2 meetings to tweak it as necessary in order to meet whatever the demands that appear to be relevant at the time.
Mr. Mayor, if we are not going to end at 5 o'clock, may it be advisable for either Rooney or Arlene to cut off and get on to the 5 o'clock with the governor?
I don't think he heard any of that. He's coming back on now. He just was logging back in.
Peter, can you hear us? No audio.
No audio?
There you go.
There
Hey,
you are.
at 5 o'clock right now, do you think it's advisable maybe we let Arlene or Rooney get off and get on this if we're going to keep going, to have one of the 2 of them at least watching what's going on at 5 maybe?
Absolutely. And I'm flipping on the TV over here. Suzanne's flipping on the TV. So I think so. And my question to Derek is 48 hours in bureaucrat world, I know gives people some comfort, but 48 hours where we can make some decisions for our business owners. Does that give you heartburn, Derek?
I mean, it's all going to depend on what the governor says. Back to Councilman Carr's comments, we're putting the cart before the horse. And I fully suspect even if he withdrew everything today, we start from scratch, there's going to be a bit of a market adjustment as the customers tell the business owners what they expect. And so, having a little bit of a lead time to make some changes will be positive, but we're going to have to start out very wide with what our scope is so that we're not going to have to restart the process, re-advertise, do anything like that. So my guess is we're going to have to start with major changes to the land development code and then see where it goes in the interim.
Okay, and if I'm reading the tea leaves, I am interested in hearing Councilman Gibson's opinion, because if you're keeping score at home, I think we're at 3-3 on whether we should have a meeting on Monday or Wednesday. So is it possible to hear from Councilman Gibson?
Somebody call him up.
Yeah, Peter.
Yes, hey.
Can you hear me?
Mayor, hello, how are you?
Good. Just trying to figure out, so meeting Monday versus Wednesday?
Correct, for the business owners. I don't know how much of this you have heard, Mike.
So what's the date Monday?
Derek, Arlene?
It's the 4th.
It's the 4th.
Because I was talking to a restaurant owner earlier today, and I think he said either the 5th or the 8th is what he was hearing for being able to open. So depending on what DeSantis says today, it might be a better idea to do Monday to, if we have to tweak anything in order to, allow them to do stuff to be open on the 8th or the 6th, whatever day it was that he was telling me. So I guess, if like, depending on what DeSantis says today, I guess Monday would be better if we do need to change anything.
Okay?
Mike.
Thanks, Mike.
Mhm.
So not knowing what the governor's going to say, but hearing that Councilman Gibson would be flexible or open to having the meeting on Monday. Derek, do you want a motion on this for a vote, or how do you want to do this?
No, there wouldn't be any need for a motion. In order to call a meeting or a special meeting, all it requires is 4 council members be in support. So I don't think we need to do that. I would ask Arlene to.
Do you want to make sure that you have 4? I believe you do.
Well, I think I've counted 4 too. The issue I would want to know is the meeting, by moving it forward to Monday, just going to be dealing with COVID-19 items, or are we going to be trying to race everything else that we had on for Wednesday up to Monday? Because that's going to cause staffing issues that I don't think Arlene had a chance to respond to yet.
And I'm game for doing a COVID-19 meeting on Monday such that it is, and, you know, leaving the remainder for Wednesday if that's what it takes.
Mr. Mayor.
Yes,
could we do a vote on what we want to do after we hear what happens, like via email, or have Arlene round it up? Because I mean, this whole thing could be changing in 5 minutes.
Yeah, no, I know. And he's speaking right now. I can't hear what he's saying.
Can we do a motion to adjourn and then circle back?
Derek, Arlene?
As we point out, the charter allows you to call either the mayor or 4 members to call a special meeting. So we can just reach out to you later on and feel if everyone feels the same way and make that call offline.
Mayor, our recommendation is, I know it seems unfortunate to meet twice, but we do have items that folks have been working on, grant extensions and other items that would be a little close turnaround for Monday. We've got staff working on. We could see, I need to look at where everybody is.
I just want to be, and I'm sorry, Arlene, I want to be painstakingly clear. This is for businesses only, where 48 hours may make a big difference.
Correct. So in that case, it would be a special meeting on Monday, and then looking at if we have other regular items that can't be done on time, we may ask you to keep your regular meeting Wednesday.
Sure. No, that's a-okay. So why don't we hear what the governor has to say, and then Arlene and Derek, can you round the 7 of us back up? Via phone
Yes.
call. And I want to make one thing before we break. I would like to propose, not necessarily for Monday's emergency meeting, although I'd be open to that, but for Wednesday's meeting, I would like to make a motion that we meet live together at City Hall, 6 feet apart, 10 feet apart, whatever that is. Wednesday, I want to be at City Hall together. And I'd like to make that motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, there's a motion and a second on Wednesday. And Derek, I'll throw in Monday there, or however you want to word that, that we meet at City Council live. And there's
Mayor,
been
we
a
don't
second.
we don't require a vote on that, and you can't take a vote at your workshop anyway.
All right, well, there you go. There's been a motion and a second and no vote. We're going to meet on Wednesday live and in person, everybody.
Yay.
I just have one concern about that. If senior citizens are under under restriction, I would like to sort of comply with that.
No, and look,
No.
at it doesn't make anybody uncomfortable. Anybody that wants.
It has nothing to do with being uncomfortable. I think it has to do with being models for what we expect our senior citizens to do. I think it's like, and again, let's listen to the governor, but it seems that they are still asking for those over 65 to stay at home unless it's an emergency.
Fair enough. Anybody that wants to stay at home, anybody that wants to be at City Council, I'll be at City Council on Wednesday. And you can, Arlene and Derek, check with the 7 of us while you're rounding us up again.
We're going to do morning or afternoon?
I think we'll get there, Laura, when they get back to us. Is there anything else, or do we want to adjourn and listen to the governor?
Adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Yes, second.
Okay, we're adjourned. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you. God bless. Be strong.